Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. And thank you for joining us on our panel called Raging Against the Night. I'm Yashigami, Vice President of the One Club for Creativity. And I hope you've all been enjoying our Creative Month programming these past few weeks. Now, for many years now, we've been talking a lot about isms, racism, sexism, but there hasn't been as much about one of the other big isms, which is ageism. And in an industry that values youth and technology and cultural awareness, ageism is a very real and rampant problem in the advertising industry. So we're lucky to have this incredible panel of thought leaders here today to talk about this very subject. Going forward, whenever you have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function. And on YouTube, you can use the chat window if you'd like to put forward any questions to our stellar panelists here today. So we are very lucky to have this incredible panel of thought leaders here today. And moderating today is going to be Renee Huey Lipton. And I'd like to introduce her, and then she can go around and introduce the rest of the panel.
Thank you, Yash. Hi, everyone. I am Renee Huey Lipton. It is a pain, quite a pain for the name, so thanks, Yash, for getting that right. I am the founder of the Dame Collective. It's a site that brings together women over 40 who are job hunting and the companies that desperately need them. And I am moderating today, so this is probably the most you'll hear from me, so I'm going to make the most of it as I go. Now, if any of you are listening with children, there will be F-bombs. So you can teach them real quick.
You mean I'm allowed, Renee? I'm allowed.
Absolutely, we are. Or fucking A, we are. Let's just get it done. just get it done.
What is the info on this?
Yeah, cursing is a sign of intelligence, all the studies show. So I just wanted to get that out there. I'm going to have each of our amazing panelists here introduce themselves. And I'd like you to introduce yourself and tell everybody why you're combating ageism and how. So Jane, we'll start with you since you're in the upper left corner to me. So, and we'll go clockwise.
Hi, my name's Jane Evans. I'm the founder of the Uninvisibility Movement. I am probably one of the most successful advertising female creatives, but in my 50s found myself completely unemployable and completely invisible to my industry. At a time when they were saying there was very little female creative leadership, I was standing there with my hand up very, very loudly and completely ignored. And I realized it wasn't just me. It seems that the end of a career for a woman is hitting the inevitable redundancy, then 3 years of looking for a job, and it takes about 3 years for you to realize that you're never going to get one. And then at that point, you start setting up your own business, and this happens across all industries, not just advertising. So we're here to represent the power of midlife women and what we can bring to the world.
Great. Thank you, Jane. Ian, do you want to go next?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, my name is Ian David. I am the founder of Fearless, an international network of advertising talent that believes that creativity is essentially ageless. So we embrace age. We don't see age as any way a limitation. We actually see it as an advantage. We don't care if you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s. If you are total badass at what you do, then you are on the team. So that means copywriters, art directors, project managers, producers, the whole gamut of the creative process is part of our network. We're 1,000+ strong, we're experienced, we're proven, we're hungry, and we're ready to work from anywhere. So for myself, I'm happy to pleased to say that I am 58 years old, and I've just celebrated my 58th birthday. I'm loving rocking the grey hair, even though it's not been this long since 1986. So,
there you go. Thank you, Ian. Yeah, I was supposed to say, I was going to tell my age too, because, Cindy Gallup, say your age. So before I let her introduce herself, I am 54. Woohoo! All right, Cindy.
Sure. So hello, everybody. I'm Cindy Gallup. I'm the founder and CEO of Make Love Not Porn, pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference. And by the way, now is our time. We are going great guns in the pandemic, let me tell you. I'm thrilled to be here because, as a number of you in the industry will know, I've actually been speaking out about ageism for literally decades. I've been shouting my age from the rooftops. I'm 60 and thrilled. This is the year of Cindy's 60. And I've been especially shouting about ageism and the need for our industry to end it for a couple of reasons. The first is that ageism operates along every single point of the age spectrum. You can be dismissed for being too young, especially if you're female, as much as you can be dismissed for being too old, again, especially if you're female. And the second reason that I've been making a lot of noise about ageism in our industry is because we are a very powerful force in popular culture. When we end ageism in the advertising and creative industries, we end ageist depictions of aging in so many things, and that can have an enormous impact on societal attitudes towards age as a whole. And so I'm thrilled the One Club is having this session today, because in Creativity Month, this is a really, really important part of creativity to examine.
Great. Thank you, Cindy. All right, Walter.
Hey, all right. Walter Greer, yeah, I am the Senior Vice President and Group Creative Director at TBWA World Health. 42 years old, right? Just crossed over the hill. And I got to say that, look, like, I think for me, this is an important conversation. I think this is an important conversation. And the reason why I talk a lot about it is because, you know, we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion, and ageism is one thing that is always left out of the conversation. I like to always say as well that, like, as I now am starting to get older in age, I feel as though that a lot of people feel as though talent ends or talent is cut off at 40, right? You see every award shows like 40 under 40, 30 under 30, and it's as if talent just stops at 41. So my thing is like, I think it's important that we kind of come together and have these conversations with a slew of people, with older folks, with younger folks, with people of different colors, because it is something that will affect every single one of us, right? No one, it's not like I'm Black, right? I'm going to have to walk into the office and deal with being Black, right? Not everyone will have to deal with that, but everyone will have to deal with getting older.
That's great. All right. Thank you guys for introducing yourself. This is going to be excellent. All right. So let's start the discussion. So when were you guys first aware of ageism as something that was affecting you and not other people, right? And what were the signs and what did you do? Jump in.
One of the comments when Cindy first posted this was somebody put up that women have a 15-minute window where they're neither too young or too old. Yeah. And for me, it was, you know, between 28 and 28 and a quarter. I started my career at 20. At 30, I was too young to be a creative director. At 35, I was too likely to be pregnant. And at 40, past it. So that sweet spot really was 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's interesting because, especially as a woman, sorry guys, but those other things I talk about that we bleed, breed, and feed, right? Because we do that. And all of those things are not just signs of being a woman, but they're signs of you going through different life stages and aging. And people can sort of say, oh, okay, she's a mom now, right? Which adds to sort of a different veneer to the age. What about the rest of you guys? When did you first see yourselves?
Well, I could jump in.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, this is me kind of becoming aware of something that's coming down the road for me, kind of thing. I remember I was working at an agency and we were looking for a senior copywriter, probably an ACD kind of level person. And we had exhausted all the local talent kind of thing. We looked at that. So we were looking for a little bit further abroad, and we were inviting resumes to come in, and we looked at this one guy, and he had a great book, but we didn't really look deep into his actual resume, because when he turned up, I guess we assumed he was in his 20s or his 30s, but when he turned up, he was obviously in his late 40s. But anyway, so he gave him an office, and this guy had a habit of, he had a habit of like picking up his yellow pad and pencil and going walkabout. And I would find him in these little nooks, kind of working away. And, people were going for a presentation and they'd find him in there and they have to shoo him out, kind of thing. And word got back to me that people were being uncomfortable, he was making people feel uncomfortable. And it dawned on me that it was because he didn't fit the vibe, he didn't fit in visually, And if he was doing the same things and he'd been 28 with skinny jeans and no socks, no one would have batted an eyelid, you know. But because it was old, he had readers, had a grey beard, and he was kind of more into Jeff Beck than Beck. He just didn't quite fit in. So that was when I first became aware that there's a cultural thing going on here that's not going to play well for me personally in the future. And all through my 40s, I was kind of conscious that I was probably on borrowed time, that whatever's coming down the road, and I can see the people around me getting younger and I'm getting older kind of thing. And it was just a kind of matter of time before I was kind of downsized out for being too expensive. And then once that had happened, my experience was exactly the same as Jane's. It's like I applied for literally hundreds of jobs, and in big agencies, small agencies, local agencies, distant agencies, great agencies, shitty agencies, and I didn't get anything, and I thought to myself, well, my resume, my resume is not the greatest resume in the entire world, but it's not the worst. And I knew I should be getting some kind of reaction, out of 300 applications, I should be getting like maybe 30 or something like that. And I wasn't getting anything. So after a while, I just said, and all my friends and partners and trusted collaborators that I've built up over the course of a 30-year career were in exactly the same position. And so after a while, I just said, fuck it, I'm just going to do something about it. I'm going to take some action. And that's when I started planning Fearless.
That's great.
Interesting.
Walter or Cindy, what's your story?
Yeah, truth be told, I don't know that I have truly been affected by it as of yet. I can say that I most certainly had my moment of realizing how big of an issue it is. While I've known that it was an issue, I'm sure most of you have seen that I have diarrhea of the mouth sometimes, and I will post random shit occasionally. And in doing so, a post I made on LinkedIn ended up going viral. What was really interesting about it, though, is I just made a fact about 40s over 40s and how, or 40 under 40s and 30 under 30s and how it's essentially bullshit. But what was interesting to me is a couple things. Number one is a simple post like that, how it went so viral, had like almost 2 million, views and like 28,000 likes and shares and so on and so forth. But I must have had like 10 to 15 people every day write to me a personal story about an experience that they've had. And it broke my heart, right? Because I saw people, and of course I was looking at their LinkedIn profiles as well and seeing so much information and so much knowledge. And these people, like one gentleman told me a story about the fact that he hadn't been able to get a job interview in the past year and a half, right? And this is a guy who was an ECD at a pretty big agency. I won't say which agency. And for the past year, because of this and having to support his family with 3 kids, him having to work nights packing shelves at a warehouse. And because of the amount of hours he had to put in to actually pay his bills, not even having any time with his family until a Saturday and Sunday. So to me, by way of hearing all of these stories on a daily basis and having people reach out and saying, thank you for using your voice and thank you for using your platform to speak out and say and talk about these issues, because it's not a common one that's mostly spoken about.
That's exactly right.
And I mean, in my case, like Walter, I mean, I feel very fortunate because, to be frank, I've been lucky enough not to be directly impacted career-wise by ageism, but that's partly because, I left the corporate world of my own volition at the age of 45. And actually, it was then when I was able to look at the full landscape of the industry with objectivity from a point, somewhat detached from it. It was over those years that I really gained an appreciation for the lack of diversity and inclusion as a whole, and realized that ageism, and especially realized this obviously as I got older myself, and realized that ageism was a very key part of that. And, I think, one of the things that, and again, I mean, I've said this on a number of occasions over the years, but to be perfectly frank, if our industry, I mean, it's the irony of ironies that, ours is an industry whose primary target audience is female, and yet it's an industry dominated at the top in terms of leadership and creative direction by men. If that was not the case, if the gender ratio was flipped, I guarantee you that we would not be as ageist as an industry as we currently are. And by the way, I'm horrified by, and I posted about this last year. There was a thread on Fishbowl last year where someone who I think was a senior art director, didn't identify themselves, posted a question saying, has anybody on here ever been managed out of the industry because of ageism? And if so, if that happened to you, what age were you when it happened? And on that thread somewhere is me going, oh my God, guys, I'm horrified by these answers, because literally the answer to how old were you when you were forced to leave the industry out of ageism was 32, 34, 35, 37, every single, but starting in early 30s. And again, in the thread were people, men and women alike, saying, I'm in my early 30s and I'm really worried because I can see the writing on the wall. What the fuck? Okay.
Exactly.
And that's an issue also, because the two things I mentioned earlier are highly correlated. Depictions of aging in advertising and ageism in the industry. And and actually, I didn't wear this T-shirt today to make this point, but I'm just going to display my T-shirt, okay? Because you can't see it in the. So this is what my T-shirt says, if you can read it. Written and directed by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I'm a huge fan. All the best things are. Yeah. But I'm sure there are a bunch of Killing Eve fans in the audience today. So, like the rest of you, I was, on the edge of my seat watching the latest episode of Killing Eve last night. And one of the reasons I love Killing Eve is, oh my God, not only is it, as a female written, produced, directed, showrun show, stacked out with brilliant female characters, it is stacked out with brilliant older female characters. An amazing character, Carolyn, Dasha, they're complex. They're fascinating, they're hysterically funny, they're deeply moving. And, that is emblematic of what we are missing in the creative output of our industry, but it's also emblematic of what we're missing in the corridors and the meeting rooms and the creative departments of our industry. And, men in the audience, that absolutely extrapolates out to you. Because again, if Jane and I were running like two of the biggest holding companies right now, I guarantee you'd be looking at a very different picture of the industry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Wendy Clark just moved to, I think, Havas? And Dentsu, right? So it'll be interesting to sort of see what she can do there.
To be frank, Rini, she can do nothing.
Okay.
Sorry, Wendy is an example of, and by the way, I'm not talking about her person, I'm talking about her position here. But she is absolutely an example of, when you are one of the very few women operating at that level, the alien organism has to adapt to the culture around it. You have to become like the men, and you have to do what the men want and the men say.
Right.
One lone woman in the male-dominated upper ranks of those holding companies hasn't a hope in hell of changing anything, because the men around them don't want to change.
Yeah,
ain't gonna happen.
So age discrimination is often referred to as a second-class civil right because it's overlooked, and courts especially have made it difficult to prove. What are the actions we all need to take in order to, really fight this, actively?
So I'd say I'd start simple, right? Like I'd be interested to even know the ages of everyone that's actually tuned in here today, right?
That would be awesome.
Asked that. No, but maybe people post everyone post your age, right? It'd be interesting to see. And I asked that because of this, right? 24, 30, okay, some 24s, some 20s. All right. So I asked that because of this, right? Wow, things scrolling. It is when we're having these conversations. It's great that we can have these conversations. It's great that we can actually talk on this topic and this issue. But the bigger problem is if we continue to have these conversations with people our age and people that are thinking the same thing as us, then no change happens, right? It's like when you go to a diversity inclusion conference or meeting, right? The only people you see there are people of color, right? If you don't have the rest of the demographic, the people that you're trying to influence, it means absolutely nothing. So in reality, what would be really like a starting point is let's get those people in the room. Let's get those 20 somethings in the room. Let's get those 30 somethings in the room. But it's also getting the opportunity to allow these people to work together, right? Like, so a friend of mine, Derek Walker is creating something called the Creative Kumite, right? And the Creative Kumite is about bringing people of different backgrounds and genders and ethnicities together to work together as teams, right? If we can do something like that, where you show that, like, hey, this person is brilliant, or there's no difference between ages, like, and in fact, you're going to probably learn more from this person because they've been in the trenches longer than you, or maybe that person might learn a little more from a younger person who might be using things like TikTok, which, truth be told, I'm not on TikTok like that yet, right? That I might not know. Right. So it's about merging this together, because like good creative work does not happen unless you're getting people from different backgrounds. And that doesn't just mean Black or white or Asian. Right. It also means age as well.
God, you know, I've heard that so many times over the course of and yet we're still talking about it, right? If we bring all these different people, different perspectives together, it'll be better. And it's like, how fucking hard is it for management to get that, right?
So management are not going to do it. And they're not going to do it now more than ever before, because they're all scared shitless about what's going down with the pandemic. They're laying people off. It ain't going to happen. The approach we need to bring to this is the approach that, ironically, our industry enormously prides itself on, which is highly ingenious strategy and extremely creative execution. And I'll give you an example which I riffed on a podcast interview that I did for Ad Age a couple of years ago, when they had me and David Droga on, and Ageism came up in the conversation. Because I'm all about communication through demonstration. You have to do something to make people feel what you want to feel. I mean, again, this is the whole point of everything we do as an industry. So my suggestion was that you bring together a collective of brilliant people in our industry over the age of 50, you know, all of us, and like the entire industry getting together. You call that collective something that tackles this issue head on, like the Old Folks Home. Okay, that was my idea for the brand. Okay, so the Old Folks Home Collective is available to consult on and work with you, or for anyone who values, you know, expertise. But what the Old Folks Home also does is you announce, and just to kind of talk about this hypothetical example, let's say this is the chapter of the Old Folks Home that's based here in New York. So the Old Folks Home announces that once a week, let's say on a Wednesday, between the hours of 6 and 8, we will take up residence in this bar or lounge in a central location. I mean, again, on the other side of the pandemic now, when we can do that. And for those 2 hours, anybody in an industry can come and meet with us, and they can bring any business problem, strategic conundrum, creative portfolio, and they can get the input and advice for free of the Old Folks Home, with one condition. You can only do that if you are between the ages of 21 and 25. Okay, so if you're between 21 and 25 in our industry, you get 2 hours a week of brilliant expertise, input, creative review, ideas thinking, because, you know, that generation isn't getting it. You know, when the chips are down, you know, everybody's panicking, layoffs are happening, budgets are cut, nobody any longer is mentoring in the way that we were all lucky enough to benefit from in our younger days. So they're not getting that in their agencies. But equally, they would go back to every agency and go, fuck me, that was amazing. Oh my God, I talked to this 55-year-old, I talked to this 63-year-old, and I got these communication through demonstration.
No, I love it. I love it. Ian and Jane, what about you guys? Where do you come out on this? What are the actions we need to be taken? Sorry, go ahead.
Think, one of the catalysts for change, I can't really see advertising agencies changing anytime soon, personally, but I think what Cindy just said is a great idea. I actually think the real catalyst for change could be the clients, you know, CMOs, brand managers, entrepreneurs. I think because they have the power, you know, they have the influence, you know, from when they start demanding that they see more fully inclusive teams, looking back at them in meetings, in pitches, in presentations, I think things will start to change in a heartbeat. It'll only take a few influential players to do that. And it'll have a demonstrable effect. Because in my experience, you know, the people at the very top, they have the capacity to see things that other people don't, and they can see things further down the road. And I think these people have the ability to make this work, because I think some of the things that we've set up amongst ourselves they are, we've moved talk into action. We've set up entities that are pathways to bring more people back into the game, kind of thing. But we can only take it so far. At the end of the day, we need we need to get some business and clients and prove that it works, and it will work. And so I think the clients that can embrace this and engage and embrace this idea, we can harness this army of senior people that's out there, good people, smart people, passionate people, getting them back in the game. And that will be a way to move ageism in advertising at least one step closer to being history.
Yeah, exactly. Jane, talk to us. I mean, you didn't start Uninvisibility that long ago, but I can remember the first time I saw it and I was like, oh, fuck, this is amazing, right? And I have to admit, it was in one of my, I'm eating, Rocky Road ice cream in the shower because I'm over 50 and I need to support my family and, oh my God, what am I going to do moments? And that you really sort of got my back up, and I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to eat the ice cream outside of the shower without crying because I'm awesome. But tell us about Uninvisibility and what you're doing there.
Look, I think the thing that for me is that particularly for midlife women is the narrative needs to be changed. And one of the things, and particularly in advertising, that I think it is really unfair that there are so few highly experienced female creatives, is the fact we were the first. It was the equal opportunity legislation came in on the same day as Queen became #1 with Bohemian Rhapsody. And once you put that into context, all of a sudden you realize, hold on a minute, these were the first women in the workforce. Where are they? And it was like, if we've disappeared, then what is going to happen to women after us? But also the other thing is there's a perception of us that is completely and utterly wrong. I had a conversation with a young person the other day saying, we're fed up to the back teeth of Helen Mirren. And she said, why are you so, why are you, she's great. And I was saying, she's 74. It was like 50 is Jennifer Aniston.
Right.
And so there's this perception that whenever you talk about any woman over the age of 50, they talk about 74 or 80-year-olds. And there is this new middle. We're not as old as you perceive us to be. We're nothing like our mothers. We're nothing like our grandmothers. And in fact, there have never been women like us before on this planet before. We're the first generation in the workforce that have gone through menopause. And, all of our careers have been built on a man's physiology. And we're coming to the other side of this going, holy shit. It was like, we have none of these chemicals running through our body anymore. I mean, I remember I started my career with David Droga. I remember the day my menopause finished, I went, holy shit, this is what David Droga felt like at 22. Now, seriously, the confidence that you get and not having this constant distraction of chemicals, all of a sudden I came into a strength and a power that I've never had before. And I hear this over and over and over again from women. So for me, it's like the way that we have to start this is we've got to completely rip up our image of what older women are and really start looking at, and again, when I've been running the project, I mean, the women that are following it are younger women. And they're like, you guys are all so cool. It was like great to hear these stories. And I think there was a statistic from Creative Equals that said that 80% of young female creatives do not feel as though they have any role models. So, we need to be out there shouting and screaming and doing work. You need to see what we say and what we do because our voice is just not out there in advertising. And
that is why the pandemic is our time. So, what I've been saying is, the pandemic has ensured the world will never be the same again. And that is a very good thing for those of us who are never the status quo to begin with.
Right.
And so, and again, I want to look at this from both ends of the age spectrum, because I know we've got some young people on here as well as older. In the first instance, older people, or as I like to call us, experts, could not be more valuable right now. This is my 4th recession. Boy, oh boy, have I ever been around the fucking block, and do I ever know what to do? Okay, we are what you need right now when everyone else is going, oh my God, the sky's falling. So we have the expertise. Secondly, our generation has the money. And I know that we've been saying this for years, the data's been showing it for years, But now, sadly, by the way, and young people in the audience, massive empathy. But right now, we're already saying millennials don't have money. Now millennials really do not have money. And they've moved back in with their parents. And, the only people who have money to spend are older, and not everybody, by the way, because again, we're all financially challenged. But if you want to talk to the demographic that has the money, it's going to be older. And so that's the opportunity, as Jane said, to reinvent aspirational culture and to depict new models of what is aspirational, because we don't aspire to be young, younger people aspire to be us, because we reach the age where we don't give a shit. We know what matters, we know what we need, what we want, what our personal tastes are, and when everything is falling apart, we are what you sell to and we are what you used to sell. And then the other thing I would just say for the younger people in the audience is, the very interesting thing about the pandemic is that it has completely changed the entire concept of time in all sorts of ways. And, I say that as somebody who's said for years, time is a very interesting business dynamic in ways not a lot of people realize, because the sheer passage of time changes things. Regardless of what you are doing yourself to change your situation, time passing changes industry dynamics, marketplace trends, mindsets. The pandemic has completely exploded traditional timelines. Things that we all accepted used to take a very long time, no longer do. That whole concept, and by the way, I'm especially talking to you young people, that whole concept of you have to do your time. You have to put in the time. You have to have spent several years doing this. We have seen how rapidly timelines can be accelerated in emergency. And that applies to career paths and what you do as much as to how quickly a vaccine gets approved suddenly, how quickly legislation can be overturned when the situation really demands it. And so I would urge everybody, we are now thinking very differently about time. Think very differently about what it will take you to get to where you want to be.
I love that you brought it back. I love that you brought it back to the pandemic, Tinny, too, because it made me think as well that, like, if we stop for a minute, like in this horrific time, right, and take a look around and look, who are the people that people are flocking to? Dr. Fauci, Mario Cuomo, older people, right? They're not flocking to like
Andrew Cuomo, by the way, not
right. Andrew Cuomo, sorry, right? Yeah, right. But they're not flocking to, like, they're not kids, right? They're going to people who know better, people who have experience, right? And I think that what this pandemic has also done is, I think it's, and this is what I'd like to believe at least, is that it's created a level playing ground, right? Like, most of you saw the show Love is Blind on Netflix, right? So like, I think this is like, before we're used to talking face to face to someone, but now we're like doing it through Zoom, right? And suddenly, like, we kind of like dissipate like the more about, how do we say this? You have this opportunity to engage with someone and actually understand more about who they are without having this kind of experience of feeling and age and all this stuff in front of someone. So I think that now's an opportunity, again, where we all have the same tools, right, to access. And it's an opportunity where we can now kind of separate that age, I think, at least, right? I'd like to see more of that.
No, that's fantastic. So Betty Friedan said, and for those of you who don't know who she is, in the 70s,
educate yourselves.
She wrote The Feminine Mystique, and if you should read it, if you haven't. She said, age is not lost youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength. So what do we see as our opportunities and strengths of the 40 plus population today? What do we bring specifically to the table?
One of the things I always say about older women is the worst that could possibly happen usually probably already has. So,
yes.
We've actually dealt with the most difficult things. We've dealt with death, we've dealt with loss, we've dealt with, we've dealt with so many things that, again, I work with a group of about 20 women. None of us actually are noticing that much difference in our lives with the pandemic. And, all of us are saying, this is nowhere near the worst thing that has ever happened in my life. And we're all just going, what can we do to change the future? What can we do to make it? Because we're recognizing that this is a break the machine moment. We're recognizing that teams are going to have to get smaller. Things are going to have to get quicker. They're going to have to be more efficient. And if ever there was a time for our experience and our creativity, it's now. And also, if we're really sensible about the economy, if we want to ensure that we keep the economy running, then we should be talking to midlife women, because we buy 47% of everything. So that should be the priority, is to make sure that we're employed and to make sure that we're heard, because if we drop off, then everything drops off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the opportunity is because there are so many great people, more senior people perhaps outside of advertising agencies than inside them now. I think maybe the opportunity is for networks like ours. You know, if COVID has shown us anything, it's that we can work remotely. You know, it's you know, yes, we're all itching to get back into pubs and bars and coffee shops and restaurants and sporting events, and want our kids back in school and college and want life to return to some semblance of normal as soon as possible. But I'm not sure if everyone's that desperate to go back to the bricks and mortar office with the commute, the COVID precautions. So this is an opportunity to embrace something different. If we really wanted to embrace something new and something that's actually practical for the times, is to like harness all these smart and intelligent people outside and bring them together and focus them on problems that are at hand for lots of major brands that are and businesses and products that are really, really hurting right now. And it's going to take something special to pull some of them out of the nosedive that they're in. And it's going to take proven, experienced people to be able to do that. So it's like a double whammy. Like the remoteness is there. We know it can make it work. There's a lot of brands that are hurting, that are looking to reduce their overheads. We don't have any overheads. Here's a chance, you know, let's take it. Let's not pass it up.
No,
Exactly.
absolutely. And I would really urge everyone listening to this currently to adopt this mindset, because, you know, I've been interviewed for years by reporters who've said, so Cindy, you know, are you seeing change happen in our industry in gender equality, diversity, inclusion? And I go, no. They go, oh, why is that? And I go, closed loop of white guys talking to white guys about other white guys, blah, blah, you know, won't go there right now. So then they go, so Cindy, you know, what do you think will drive change in our industry the way you want to see it? And I've been saying for years, only one thing: complete, total, utter fucking disaster. And now we have it.
Yes.
It is only when things break down this utterly and completely, that then allows new models and new ways of doing things to emerge that never would have emerged otherwise. And so there are two really important dynamics right now. The first is what the pandemic is making happen, and that is the complete breakdown of the old world order in our industry, including old world order attitudes towards age and sexism, racism, ableism, et cetera, And then the second dynamic is what we then make sure we do off the top of that to change all of that. Seize the moment and make it work for you.
No, that's great. Walter, jump in here. I'd love to hear what you have to say on this.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and then I'll just kind of come off what Cindy was saying as well, because I do agree that right now is an opportunity we could really seize the moment. And I would like to think again that the playing field is kind of leveled now, because we're all kind of in this digital space. But I also still kind of keep going back to the fact that, like, we need to start figuring out ways where we can actually bring individuals together to work together, right? It's a learn, like, you learn this stuff from a young age. Like, let's be honest. I'm sure that there's a slew of people that are on here watching, and I'm not going to sit here and lie like it hasn't been me. When I first got in the space, and I'm 20, 21, 22 years old, you think you're fucking amazing. You think you know the world. And then you finally get the opportunity to manage people, and you start to interview. And the first thing you think, and let's be real, the first thing you think is, I want to work with someone who's cool. I want to work with someone who I can hang out with, right? Who I'm gonna, you know, go out and grab a beer with. And
Right.
That's the way that I think that you think when you're younger, right? It's not until you get older that you understand the wealth of knowledge and things that come with that, with age. And truth be told, like, I'm at a point now where the best information, every week I get on a call, a Zoom, with 6 other guys who are in their 60s and above, who are ex, you know, agency guys. And it's the best piece of knowledge that I get every single week. And I learn so much. So again, I go back to, we need to find two things: ways we can talk to a younger audience about this, and ways we can bring individuals together to work together. Because the thing that I do fear about this pandemic now is that we're in a space now where every brand has to sit back and say, oh, fuck, I need to be digital, right? And when people start thinking about what digital means, it's automatically the younger kids that go, yep, okay, well, it's because I know this platform and that platform and that platform. We need to be at a time where we can look, like when folks come to me and ask about how to get involved and how to be, more engaged, I tell people, like, get on Instagram, figure out how Instagram works, get on Twitter, like figure out, like, get on these platforms. Now is an opportunity where we have this time, we're at home, we're not on a commute, where you can learn other platforms, right? And so that's really important. But again, figuring out ways we can actually come and work and partner together.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, Rennie, we're on TikTok, aren't we?
Oh, yes, we are. In fact,
I certainly am not yet. I'm not yet.
My daughter and I, we do a daily TikTok dance, and I gotta say that the validation I get from her 20,000 followers, which freaks me out. They're like, "Oh, what are you wearing? What dress is that?" And I'm like, literally, no one's ever asked me that ever. But hey, I love it. It's one of the things that I often think about when I'm sitting in a meeting about to open my mouth because no one's saying the thing that should be said is one of the opportunities. I think one of the strengths older people have is zero fucks given, right? And I think that is incredibly hard to learn when you're younger because of the different pressures you have. But I'd love to sort of hear from you all about sort of moments of zero fucks given, and let's tell everybody that it's okay to do that.
Well, I guess my zero fucks is right now, because just launched this thing called Fearless, and the great thing about being called Fearless is you can say whatever you want, and I fully intend to be doing that. I like. Indy's got this thing about saying your age, and I really love that. I think it's the idea of you are the sum total of all your experiences and life events. I think that's really, really great. And the other thing about that is that everyone is completely different, and they all have a different texture of experiences. So just look at us and this panel. We're all trying to do the same thing.
Right.
We're all coming at it from slightly different positions, and we all got different life stories and different histories. But here we all are, all striving to do to change things in our own unique way, kind of thing.
I'd like to share a piece of advice about.
Yeah.
Now is especially a time to operate zero fucks given in a very particular context. And this applies equally to those of you listening who are young and starting out in our industry, to those of you who are lucky enough to be currently employed, to those of you who are not employed, to those of you who are older, not employed. There is, and I'll start by just countering this advice in the context I normally give it, which is when I'm talking to an audience of especially women working who have jobs, because there is one single thing you can do in your career that is the one thing that will catapult you up the career ladder quicker than anything else. It's the one thing that will instantly set you on the fast track to a promotion, a pay raise, and the C-suite. And it's very simply this: understand how your company makes money and recommend ways it can make more money. So right now, however much you're financially struggling, whether you are worried about keeping your job or whether you're looking for a job, this is how you keep your job. And this is how you find another job. You take the idea of zero fucks given. You tell your fucking management what they should have been doing 10 fucking years ago to run a far better business that you've never told them because you've been too scared to. Tell them that, not in the way that I've just said it, obviously, but tell them that couched as, dear C-suite chaps that never listened to me before, I can see the business is in a really bad state. and I've got this idea that I guarantee will make us more money. Please, can I book a meeting, tell you about it? Nobody will not take that meeting. Equally, if you are applying for a job, okay, research the fuck out of the agency or the company you want to work for, and then write them and say, I see that this is how you're making money. I see that the business is not doing well. I have an idea on how you can make a ton more money. Can I get a meeting? Nobody will not take that meeting. And the reason I'm saying this very vehemently in response to Rena's question is, you know, in my career as a consultant, when I run workshops, when I undertake projects for clients, one of the things I usually request is I like to book half-hour meetings with every single person who will be in the workshop, or a cross-section of the employees in advance to familiarize myself with the company. At least that's how I couch it. But when I sit down with an employee for half an hour, guaranteed confidentiality, I explain to them nothing they say to me is going to go anywhere beyond the walls of this room. This is just me to learn more about the job they do. I hear very interesting things. And several years ago, I was doing this for a very big, famous global media brand. And I was talking to a young woman who was like a mid-level person. And she said to me, you know, and I've been looking at our business. And by the way, the reason I was hired was because this media company was not doing well. And she said, there are all these ways that we could be making more revenue. We could be doing this. I've thought about, and her ideas were bloody brilliant. And I said to her, have you said this to anybody? And she went, oh, no, I haven't. I went, why the hell not? She went, well, this is my very narrow chain of command. I'm not sure how to speak to the people, and I'm not sure they'd want to hear it from me. And by the way I structured the workshop that a whole bunch of employees participated in, then very specifically identified an opportunity to showcase those ideas. But, those of you listening to this now is the time to give zero fucks and articulate that perspective on the business you never have before because you've been too scared. Now is the chance to give zero fucks when you apply for that job and go, I know how to make you more money. And trust me, as I said, nobody will not take that call and not do that meeting.
And I think one of the things about being older, that's exactly right. I think one of the things about being older is you have the confidence to do that, because if you are in your 30s and you have these ideas, you may just lack that little bit of courage to think, is this really a good idea or isn't it? What you're saying is like, just go for it, just make it happen, do it. Take action, kind of thing.
Yeah. Hey, we've got some questions coming in, and we've got about 12 minutes left. So, John, the top question that's been voted on is from John Simons. I hope I pronounced that right, John, or it could be Simmons, but I think it's Simons. Being under 30, what is something I can do to deter the progression and procession of ageism in advertising? I mean, we've talked a little bit about it, right? Sort of the getting together, the working together. But what else can he do?
So that's you want that, Jane? So that's an interesting one. I think that it's I'd say that if you're in a position where you can actually make decisions in terms of the people that you're bringing on, I think that's a start, right? It's like it's looking across the board and making sure that you're bringing on those folks. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I don't, but when I actually go out and try to hire folks, I do like to look for older folks, right? Because I know that there's a level of expertise that you're going to get there that is unique, right? And hard to find. That's where I'd say start. I think that's the easiest thing, but also think for a minute. When you're 55, 60 years old and you have to go into, let's say, an ad agency, and then you sit down at your desk, and now that we're doing open spaces, right? And you're sitting in a spot where you have 7 20-something-year-olds around you, right? That might feel a little uncomfortable, right? Because you might not be able to kind of engage in the same type of conversations that a 20-something-year-old might want to engage in. So I think it's also about making people feel included, right? Making people feel involved when you're in these type of situations.
Yeah.
I think people also have to champion us.
Yes.
I found a few months ago there were a lot of young women working on menopause briefs. And they get in touch with me on LinkedIn going, can I have a cup of coffee with you? And I'm going, fuck no. Go talk to your management team and get me to come in and consult. You've got
absolutely. That's exactly what I was about to say, Jane. John, what you do is you go, oh my God, there's this amazing older person. You know, and by the way, whether they're in your agency or whether they're outside,
Right.
you know, they've got these brilliant ideas. You know, I'd love to hire them as a consultant or within the agency. I just want you to know that I so appreciate working with so-and-so. They have so much to do. I learned so much. I just want to make sure that's inputted into their next performance and peer review.
Yeah. No, exactly. Say, I want to work with these people. Absolutely. All right. Hillary Black has asked, as a recruiter and coach for the creative industry for the past 20 years, there is the issue of agencies refusing talent over 40. One of the issues is hiring senior talent, reporting into talent 20 years younger. Oh, yeah. Companies refuse to hire these candidates. Is there something we can do about this, such as writing the ratio for age and making sure quotas are met? How do we really make this happen?
I had a lovely story out of Australia. There was a client that had been saying that they wanted a senior female on their account, and they kept on coming back going, no such thing, can't find them, no such thing. So she actually went out and found her own. And I think, you know, clients, if you're getting pushback from your agency and saying that that there aren't the senior experienced people that are out there, go hire them as consultants, go around the agencies.
What a dumbass agency.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, no, I was
seriously.
going to say, A, that's fucking outrageous, and B, that is illegal.
Yeah.
That is actively illegal. And honestly, my response to that is, please tell us the name so we can publicly shame them. That's what I'm
Right.
going to do.
Exactly.
I'll find out.
That's crazy. Wow.
I mean, I know one of the things when I was going through my last 2 searches, I got really, pissed off about recruiters or headhunters telling me to take the dates off my,
God,
resume,
no,
right?
No.
And I was like, no, refuse. And I tell other people to refuse because that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, expertise.
Right, exactly.
I always say to people, go into interviews and say, it's precisely because I've spent 10 years doing this and 5 that makes me so bloody good at what you need somebody to do for you.
Yes.
You know, and by the way, if you don't mind, I want to just counter a comment I saw just now about agencies not wanting to pay for senior people. First of all, we don't cost as much as you think we do. Okay, I mean, I have to tell you, I have never again made what I was making when I left the industry 15 years ago, and I don't need to. And by the way, for all those people in charge who very interestingly never see ageism as applying to them.
Right.
We don't need to live at the level they've been living at, and that our industry is unfortunately very good at convincing people they need to live at. So we are not expensive, and we are really open to opportunities that provide the chance to benefit from things that are not purely cold hard cash. Basically, a living wage plus health insurance, plus opportunities to work with great people, do great work, and opportunities to progress. That's as good as it gets.
I always think about what is underlying that when they say we don't want to pay this, we don't want to pay for senior talent. Is it like really almost like saying we think we can get away with less? Can we fob the clients off with standard work because they can't tell the difference kind of thing? And at the end of the day, they may not be able to fully articulate it, but they do, and there is a value to us, and experience and perspective. Like you say, right now in the midst of a recession, and this is not our first recession, this is our 4th or 5th recession.
And that is why hiring older people, and again, I say this all the time, but hiring older people is so cost efficient and so cost effective.
Right.
Because we know exactly what to do when, business crisis arises, been around the block 64 million times, boom, 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 here's what you do. We have the wealth of 20, 30 years of experience, makes us get to solutions quicker, creatively, strategically. It is the most cost efficient thing you can possibly do to hire experts.
Yeah, I always say a day of my time is worth 3 days of a junior.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. There's that, it doesn't take me 30 minutes to do this, but it took me 30 years to make sure that I could do it in 30 minutes, that whole thing. Yeah.
right now, I think, you know, as I say, when brands do start to emerge from this pandemic, there's going to be a lot of categories and brands and, you know, entire industries almost in one hell of a flipping hole. And it's going to, that's why you can't go back to, you know, the old ways of, you know, with this, things have changed, and it's going to take some serious thinking. It's going to take some serious experience, know-how, and chops to pull some of these brands out. And I think there's going to be categories where you're going to literally be the survival of the fittest. You know, you're literally going to have to make your case for your brand against another brand, because if you don't, you're not going to make it. And
one of the things I found out of the pandemic, which I found really interesting, is just how important analog has been. Now we're all stuck at home. It was like all of those skills that we were brought up learning have now got greater value. And I think people forget that we're digitally ambidextrous. We actually saw all of this stuff come in. I mean, I launched Microsoft Word version 1 and had to explain.
Wow, Jane.
That's amazing. Props to you.
Secretaries what word processing was. So, you know,
that's difficult.
When we're now facing a world where there's so much uncertainty, to have people that have not only been through change, but actually directed and communicated through change.
Absolutely.
We become so valuable. And I would be saying to any client, you know, they're going to be looking at how they work, who they work with. I would be saying work with smaller, more highly experienced teams. You know, I've worked with women that we've worked together for 20 years. It was like our life has not changed. Our work pattern hasn't changed. And we have ways that we've worked like this since 2006 is when we started working like this. So, awesome. You know, we've got great experience and great knowledge, and we've been through massive change. So this is the time where you should be calling on us, really.
Absolutely. And that leads into, I think is probably going to be our last question, maybe. A person, I think from YouTube says, I find that older creatives aren't given the chance to be creatives, that once you reach a certain age, you're expected to be in management, right? Yeah. Why won't agencies accept older copywriters, art directors, designers, and I'll add to that account people, strategists, producers, whatever, you know, and I think it's a good question, right? This idea that I know when I've managed teams, it's like not everybody has to or wants to move up. Some of them want to do what they want to do. Why don't we let that happen for older people if they don't want to be in management?
Because there's this trajectory where it's supposed to be from the bottom to the top that actually takes in no consideration whatsoever into people's personal lives, their family, or their biology. So, you know, and for me, the cruelest thing about that is the sweet spot in that trajectory is 35, which is the worst time in the world for a woman. Now, if we start looking at careers as having a much longer span, that doesn't mean to say that only the only ones left are the ones at the top. And that's what it is at the moment. If we can actually start saying, we're going to be living till we're 90 or 100. So the fact that your career is over at 40 is ridiculous. We need to be starting to look that we're all going to be working till we're 70. And I think as soon as we start making that leap, that will make a big difference so that it won't just be older people.
And also, when we break that down to Walter's point, you know, when we get rid of that linear hierarchical progression, because what that means, the assumption that you move up the ladder as you get older means that we don't have cross-generational working. Because, you know, you are only ever working together at the same level. And so the people up there, theoretically, you know, don't get to work with the people down here. And we need to explode that whole structure and completely redesign it so that we have cross-generational teams working collaboratively within a much flatter structure and work environment. And again, the pandemic's broken all that down. And I think coming out the other side of this, we have that opportunity.
Yeah, I'd agree to that. I'd agree to that too, because it's just this thought that as you get older, you're supposed to be a certain level, or as you hit 40, you should be a vice president or senior vice president. And I think it's bullshit. And it's like, I have so many friends of mine who, and actually, truth be told, I can remember 15 or 16 years ago when I was younger, I was at the New York Times and I had a friend who was a regular account executive there. And this guy was like the #1 seller in the country every year, back to back. And I would always ask him, why don't you, they keep asking you to promote you to vice president, why don't you take it? And he would say, I don't need the bullshit. Like I'm crushing my numbers. I'm making a shit ton of money. Like, why the fuck do I want to go and actually manage other people doing the same thing? I could come in and go the fuck home when I want. So I'm not going to deal with the drama. And it took me a while to actually get that, because at first I was, being younger, I was like, man, that makes no sense. But after years, it's like, I get it, right? Because not all of us want to have that type of position, right? So when we look across at individuals, like some people are completely happy where they're at, right? And that's fine. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to need a boat ton of fucking money because I've been doing this, whatever, director of whatever for the past 30, 40 years. No, it's like, I'm happy where I'm at.
And again, when our industry is run by women, that changes totally. Because I've been saying for years, I get furious when people talk about the mommy track. Women do not drop out of the workforce because of children and family. Women drop out because any sensible woman looks at the top of industry and goes, who the fuck would ever want to work like that? Myself included, by the way. Yeah. And I've never wanted children, right? Yeah. So we can change that. We can change that.
Yeah. But it's also, too, to the point, I'll just get this in real quick, is that now companies are way younger, right? You look at some of these CEOs of like Snap and Facebook, and like they're individuals, they're kids, 22, 23, 24 years old, who landed on an idea, boom, your valuation is now $1 billion or $2 billion. And then they're hiring other kids because it's their friends, right? And the thing is, now then when you have a 25-year-old executive vice president who's going to look to hire a vice president or senior vice president, and this guy comes in or this woman comes in and they're 54, 55, 56, and again, they're 25, that's also seen as a potential threat. Right? Like, oh, this person's going to try to tell me how to do my job. I don't know if I feel comfortable. So there's a lot of weird variables there, for sure.
So it is over 2:00. So I think our One Club folks are going to ask us to wrap it up. The questions that we didn't get to are the ones here and the ones on YouTube. We will try to answer via written word and get those out to you. The One Club will be the place you go to for that. I cannot thank Jane and Ian and Cindy and Walter enough. This is like, when I got a chance to put this panel together, it was like my dream team. I was a little giddy. I kept telling my family, and they were just like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. And they still don't understand, but that's okay. I just want to thank you, the four of you, for this great discussion and for taking your time to do this on an issue that means so much to us. So thank you. And I don't know if Kasha or Lucy or Yash, what they want us to do now.
I just want to say, everybody, seize the opportunity that we've talked about. Yes. Seriously, go out there and invent your own future. Now is the time. Whatever age you are, whatever your situation, however much you are challenged by circumstances currently, you can turn it around, because with the pandemic, all bets are off. Go for it.
Excellent. That's a great way to leave this, if that's what they want us to do. This is weird. Maybe they just want us to keep talking.
I think they said we have to like sit for 30 seconds and then.
Oh, right.
There has to be a kind of end pause.
Yeah. That'll be a difficult one.
Thank you guys so much. That was such a fabulous panel, and we'll try to get the extra questions answered. Also, please check out oneclub.org/creative month. We have some other fantastic programming, and I just want to say again, thank you. What a great conversation. You're all amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Kasha. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys. Great time with you all.
Yes.
Take care. Have a great day. Bye.